Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dadsigner podcast. I'm Michael Smith, your host, and today I'm joined by Brian Athey. Hey, Brian, welcome to the show.
What's up, Michael? Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Brian reached out after hearing Rocky Rourke's episode, and we've
Shout
been
out
chatting a
Rocky.
little bit. Yeah, we've been chatting a little bit since then, so I'm excited that we made this recording time work. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about who you are, where you're from, a bit about your family, and a little bit about your work?
Sure, man. I'm Brian Athey. I live here in Houston, Texas. I am a illustrator turned graphic designer turned creative director, freelancer. I think a lot of people can sort of nail down their specialty. I am very much part of the generalist movement, but like since way back in this is actually the 20th year of my career. So I started while I was in college at LSU in 2006, and have been working professionally as a designer ever since then. I currently am the creative director and work as a fractional CMO at a company out of Charleston, South Carolina called Push Digital Group. I also do a lot of freelancing on the side, mainly with clients here around Texas. And I've got a beautiful wife of 14 years now named Allison, and I've got three kids, Harrison, who's 12, Everly, who is 9, and Sadie, who's 6. So um, we've definitely got our hands full at this season with, it's fall. So we're doing football and we're doing soccer and we're doing cheer and we're doing back to school and school carnival and reading tutor and oh my gosh, man, I could just keep going. We're busy right now. We're running the roads.
Yeah, that's awesome. What what a full life. It's funny. I think you said that people will ask you like, "What do you do for fun?"
That's
and
right.
you're
Yeah, yeah,
like, and then you like list off these kids' activities.
yeah. Like people ask as a parent, like they're like, so I think it's almost a question that you kind of guard against at this point. Like when I'm talking to folks in the neighborhood, I'm not like, so what are your hobbies? Like, do you golf? Do you hunt? Like, nobody's got time for that right now. Like we're deep. Like everybody, you're friends with all your parents' kids. You're friends with the parents that are like on your kids' teams. You're friends with the people that go to your church or that are in the same stage of life as you. So like asking what you do for fun on the weekends, it's like, bro, like I go to soccer games and football games and I make sure that like we don't forget cleats and we make sure that we've got the pom poms for cheer practice. Like that's my job right now, like pretty much full time, making sure that the dad stuff is happening. And I will say like props to my wife who has got us on the Skylight Calendar right now. I don't know if do you know the Skylight Calendar?
I've seen it. I want one. I haven't pulled the trigger.
We live and die by it because like when you get a syllabus at the beginning of the year or when you get the team schedule, you just take a picture and it puts it all on the calendar, and then you can sync all that up per kid. So when they wake up in the morning, they can come and they can look at the calendar and they can push their name and they can see what they're doing for the week or for the day or whatever, and all that is synced across our devices. It's a calendar for families on steroids. Highly recommend it for any dad or any parent that is listening to this. Like the Skylight Calendar is legit, and we're looking for paid sponsorships. If I'm telling you, man,
I guess. I mean, we don't. I don't think we need to finish this conversation because that might be the best advice that I've
that's
ever
the
heard
that's
on the
the hack. You
podcast.
want to cut it there? Yeah, that's the hack, man. That's the hack. The Skylight Calendar.
Dude, only if Skylight would sponsor this, it would give me the momentum to keep going.
I mean, get in touch.
Yeah.
They need to find you.
Yeah, I do. Does Skylight have they have the large tablet one, and then they have a much smaller like picture frame size, right?
Yeah, we've got I guess it's like an 8x10
Okay.
picture frame. And what's
Yeah.
cool about it is like I was thinking about this the other day. Um, we are like we're methodical about taking pictures. We have taken pictures of our kids. I mean, since we started dating, my wife and I, but like of our kids, every moment, like we're always trying to capture whatever the special moment is. And I like if you kind of build it into the routine, like you capture some really cool moments, but they all live on your phone. And we're not great about like printing and hanging pictures, like you have a couple tried and trues that you feel like you've got to keep up, but like there's so many great memories in my phone. And the Skylight Calendar kind of lets you sync all of your Apple photos or iPhone photos. And so just playing on a constant loop in my kitchen is like, this was the day my son was born. This is the day, like my daughter's first day of school. This was the first game that my youngest daughter played in for soccer. And like you see the dates and the vacations and the all the fun things that you've done, and it's you kind of forget. Like, you ever get that feeling, Michael, when you like look back at your old Instagram feed, or like if you go on vacation and you're so excited to like have some time to yourself, but you find yourself like scrolling through old photo albums and you get that nostalgia. It's like that's always playing on a loop in my kitchen right now. And it's awesome. Like I almost want like digital frames all over the house just so we can see all of that all the time.
Yeah. What a great tool. All right, you might have convinced me to go get this thing for our kitchen. Our neighbors have one, and I asked them if they used it, and they'd like have all the cool stuff, so like it's not special to them.
I, I will I will say we don't always have all the cool stuff, but we do fall victim to a lot of Instagram ads.
For
Uh,
sure.
None of them work out as great as this one has. Like this one's the real deal. I don't know how we could do without it. Especially like things will slow down at different periods of the year, but this time of year is very intense, and this saves us. This is what keeps us
Yeah,
sane.
that's awesome. Well, we could probably talk about the Skylight Calendar for the rest of the episode, but I also
Tell
want
me.
to talk about some of your work. Um, you had sent over a couple portfolio pieces, and there's a couple that stood out to me that I would love to chat about. And before we do, I think what first stood out to me is the way that you presented your work,
Mhm.
and it inspired me because I'm like, man, I get a project done, and I like maybe we'll make two little Instagram clips of it and like just to post it, and then I'll forget about it. But like, especially this, is it Picos or Pecos outdoor
Pecos. Yeah,
table?
yeah, yeah.
Pecos.
It's a table. Yeah, they sell a pretty fancy table over in Austin. Yeah.
But I just felt like the number of mock-ups and, real use photos and everything. So I want to talk about one, the design project, but also then like what is your process once the project wraps for making a presentation like that?
Well, Michael, you've caught me at an interesting time where I actually have started to put a portfolio together. I have spent most of my career without a proper portfolio. Like I'm like, I'm a dribble guy for back in the day. Like dribble
Yep.
was the thing when I was first starting out, and I measured myself by like how I could rank on dribble. And that's where I found like a lot of my design heroes was like dribble back in the day. And that's what kept me like posting and kind of it it helped me kind of think about how to mock things up or how to present work. Little secret, same way with dribble. Like a lot of the times, what you get approved and presented to the world might not be like your favorite iteration of it. So I always tell young designers, it's like if you've got something great that like you're sleeping on and it didn't get approved, you can still show it in your portfolio. Like your portfolio is for your best work. It doesn't necessarily have to be the stuff that has made the cut. And I will say specifically with Pecos, like it's a great example of kind of the model that works really well for me because um as I mentioned, I do work full time for an agency. My role there mostly is to grow that agency, mentor the staff. We've got a production team of 14 people. That's designers, videographers, web developers, project managers. Um, and like the goal there is to keep that company at a high standard, growing strong, kind of in a direction that is better and better every year. But the passion projects are the ones that I really get to work like one on one with a small team, usually like directly with a founder. And I found Pecos. It's owned by a guy named Rick Sheen. I was put in touch by a guy that was sort of acting as his CMO at the time. And what he needed was basically, I mean, the full story of Pecos is that this guy had this vision for a outdoor table, like something that's better than a folding table. Like what if Yeti made a folding table? Uh, and he like just obsessed on this thing and making it the highest quality American made product possible. Sounds awesome. But he also landed at like a $700 price point, I think is where it was at. So the job was like, how do you sell a $700 table? Like, how do you find a market for that? How do you talk about it? Um, and so, working with that CMO, we sort of identified, persona groups, kind of figured out where our market fit was. But then it was like creating assets and messaging and, working on the web experience, working on the actual brand activations, the tents and the leave behinds and the pieces of collateral. What does the box look like? What does the customer experience look like? We were doing all that stuff. So I got to touch all of it really holistically. And I got to design stuff that was like, you know, I was designing it in the room. Sometimes I'd go over to Austin, we'd sit in that office and I'd be working, the photography team would be over here and they'd send me stuff and I'd be working with that and I'd get feedback from the founder and then we'd clarify some of the messaging on with the CMO and we're getting it all really dialed in and then just constantly testing that against those audiences and what we thought. And my theory, my sort of like idea of where that company could go and how it could go, that's one of those things that like, a lot of the times as creative, you have a vision for something, but it's a team effort. And so, yeah, a lot of that stuff in the portfolio, like I said, definitely saw the light of day. There's the ton of stuff that's actually in production. The website got done, all that kind of stuff. But you also like there's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor of that. And so I tried to work some of that into the portfolio piece. And if you are listening to this and you go looking for the portfolio, like what you actually need to do is like poke me on Twitter or Instagram or whatever and be like, launch your damn portfolio, Brian, because I've got all the stuff made. It's sitting right here in Figma. I can't decide if I want to build it myself or send it off to get developed and then it's just that thing. You know how portfolios go.
The number of other designers I talked to on this show that are like,
Dude.
my portfolio is, I was like, you don't have to start. I just
I'm
get it.
telling you. Like if you go to brianathey.com, you will see like work that I do with the agency. So if you sort of tied to the agency website, if you find me on the agency, you'll see like exactly how you can hire me if you're a corporation or like a public affairs organization or trade organization. Like you can find me and you can see examples of work that relate to you. That's great. But a lot of the times it's a word of mouth thing. If on some of these like projects that I actually love, I kind of need to flip that a little bit. Like the hands-on projects that I really love, I need to show more of that. And then these kind of like working relationships where I'm helping people find their creative teams. Maybe that's secondary, but I don't know. Like as I get older as a designer, that's what I love, like having the idea, but am sort of humble enough to say like, it shouldn't be me that does this illustration or makes this video or builds this website. Like I've got somebody that's awesome that like does e-commerce really well or does photography really well. So like, let's bring them into the process. I think that's why I always wanted to be a creative director. And like back when that meant something, I think back when the creative director title meant something, it was like, who do you know and who can you collaborate with? So, um, yeah, man, you know how it goes. It's like you want to put the best foot forward and then you spend a lot of time obsessing about it, you post it, and then you immediately second guess it. You know how it goes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was actually encountering that desire to do it all yesterday. I have a
Mm,
friend locally who sells peanut butter and we redid his logo and his labels and all that kind of stuff over the last 6 or 8 months.
okay.
And I had this vision for the product photographs that are beyond like just the photos on white, like
Hmm.
something that doesn't incorporate food, but like incorporates all the ingredients that are inside the peanut butter and like really cool. And so I spent 3, 4 hours yesterday in my dining room with the lights set up and the camera out and like
Yeah.
trying to make these settings. And they were fine. They're whatever. But I'm like, man, I should recognize when I'm out of my league. Like, can I do it? Sure. can I do it as good as like someone else that does this full time? No, not at all. Because they're gonna notice the little tiny pinpoint and the drip of honey and like all the nuanced
Well,
pieces, and it's like, go higher.
how do you navigate that as a freelancer? Because that's always the issue with freelancing is that you tend to like negotiate a project and scope it yourself, like kind of just considering you in mind. But as the ideas start to happen, you think like, is this gonna come out of my budget? Do I have to get this person involved? Is it gonna fractionalize my statement of work now, or do I need to go back and pitch the client on this idea, and what are they comfortable with? Is their rate relevant to mine? Is it going to make sense? It's a tough thing when you're freelancing to pull in all the right people unless you've got a client that's like really feels the momentum. It's like a big part of our job, I think, is you work directly with a client and you kind of clarify that story for them. They sort of understand the potential for what they want to do. Um, and once you get them excited, it's like, and now if you really want to go big, like if you really want to do this the right way and go all in, like here are all the things that we could do to bring this to life. Otherwise, we're going to have to go with a kind of a more moderate approach.
Yeah. How frequently in your freelance work are you able to bring in other skill sets?
I'm super fortunate on that front. I've worked at several agencies, and have been freelancing for the I started freelancing for the first time in 2009. So um, it's been a process of like figuring out how to navigate those waters throughout the time. I mean, I typically I work very specifically on brand, and we're thinking about like, kind of the logo and the brand guides and the brand expressions, digital experiences like e-commerce or product design or web design. And occasionally like I'll write scripts. I love to do video. I'm not a cinematographer. And so I will try and feel that out up front. And typically like early in the conversations with the client, I will say, now, if we're going to do, um, something really sophisticated on web, or if you want to have this intro video made or demo video made or whatever you want, like I've got those people, I can bring them in. And a lot of the times, like, because I work kind of in phases, I typically pitch work in a month's time or in a 90-day sprint. So it's like I'll work for you for 30 days or 90 days based on a goal. Uh, and I will, a lot of the times, like if I'm just working for a month, I can easily say like, okay, I'm going to get you to the point that you need to get with a developer. And if you're comfortable with me handing that off, you can just work directly with them. Your budget can go there. You can come back to me like when you're ready for the next step. Same way with video and stuff like that. So it's ideal, if I'm able to work with all those people at once, but it's rare. So anytime I can like set them up to win and then let them kind of do an engagement with whatever they need specifically and then come back, that typically is how it works. I mean, seldom as a freelancer am I working with 3 or 4 other people at a time. We tend to phase it out.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And you've talked a little bit about that 30-day window, that 90-day window, the seasonality. How do you break up your time? You got your family
Hmm.
calendar. Shout out to Skylight again if you
Shout
ever
out.
sponsor this.
Yeah.
You've got the agency that you work with. You got the freelance work. How do you weave your time together in each month window, 90-day window?
So when I was younger, again, I go back to these dribble stories and like uh, the Dan Petties and stuff like that. Like I always thought that there was this possibility to make a ton of money if you did graphic design the right way, if you approached a creative career the right way, because you would see these people landing like $50,000 websites and $100,000 projects and $40,000 a month and all that kind of stuff. That's real money when you stack all that up. I always thought that like there was a way to do it. And for the early part of my career, that was all about hustle. It was like, how many of those projects can I stack up at once? Can I have a retainer going while I'm doing 3 or 4 or 5, 6 other projects? Like, what is too many? And it was right around the time that my daughter Everly was born that I just crashed. Like we went on this beach vacation And one of my retainer clients called me on Wednesday and said, we need to launch a website on Monday, the following Monday. And I was leaving for the beach vacation on Thursday. And we drove to Gulf Shores, met my family. We had 2 little kids. And we we got in town, we did the beach day, and I stayed up all night working on that website. Got it the next day, we did the beach vacation, beach all day. Everybody went to bed. I went downstairs to the lobby and worked all night. I went to bed at like 4 in the morning. Same thing Saturday, same thing Sunday. And when we were driving back Monday morning, this website is supposed to launch at 10 a.m. They called me at 9:30. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. My wife is driving. They called me at 9:30 and they were like, we're not doing the press conference. We're going to push this off a week. No big deal. Man, I was ready to give up. That's one of the reasons that I went to an agency in the first place. It was like, I just can't handle this volume anymore. It stopped being about like, how much could I do? And it was about reclaiming some of this time. Like I was not present enough with my family. And then when I was at work, I was regretting the fact that I was not present with my family. And when I was working way too much and not sleeping. And so then the version of myself that was a dad was falling way short of my own expectation. And I got to a point where I was like, whatever the big goal of money is, like, that's not what is important right now. What's important is like time at home. And so I've really put a premium on that always. And I thankfully work at a place that respects my time and value enough to say like, this is what we need you to do. And then give me the freedom to do that without a ton of like meetings and oversight. I really can like set my own course and direction at that agency. And almost every relationship that I get into with a client is sort of predicated on the fact that like, you have a goal, let's get this thing done. I can do it. I'm a fast worker. Like I can get this done. If I can get you on board, 30 days is plenty. But if we go 90 days, if we do a full like quarterly engagement, if we can't get whatever your project is done in 90 days, one of us is going to lose steam or lose interest or sort of just kind of, we're going through the motions, we're just waiting until the next week's meeting to do the next check-in. Like if we can't truncate it down into a quarter, then let's reassess what you actually want done and the goal of that, and let's accomplish it then. What's really important, I guess, is like understanding that you can never do enough. You've got to be the one that sets your own boundary. And then once you set that boundary, is just trying to consistently hold to it. If you don't, the work is either going to suffer or you personally are going to suffer, or most importantly, I think like this precious window that we have with our kids is going to suffer. Like going back to that Skylight thing, God, like brought to you by Skylight, reach out. Going back to that, like I look at these pictures, and like you're sort of confronted with all these moments that in the back of your mind, you remember like, I was so tired, or like I was so stretched thin, or I was so worried about this thing that I had to get done, that it was really important to figure out like no matter how much my sort of provider instinct or personal ambitions kick in, like what's most important is like being present. And so I fall short of that a lot, but that's the goal that I always try and keep in mind.
One of the things you said in there was, those pictures on Skylight. I know you have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
That 12-year-old, because I have an 11-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to be with you quite as much as they did when they were 8, 7, 6, or
Mm-hmm.
at least the time together is different, right? I was
That's right.
talking with Doc Reed last week, and he was saying like, "Oh yeah, the 14 and 15-year-olds, like when you get that moment, cherish it because they're fewer and far in between because, as kids mature, I didn't necessarily want to be with my dad all the time when I was 13 or 14, but now, back to really enjoying time spent with him." And so, um, yeah, those memories that show up, whether it's on your phone or on the calendar, are just like sometimes they're really joyful and sometimes they're heart wrenching.
Yeah, I mean, my son is he's just the sweetest soul, and he loves his family. Like one of the things from the jump, he just loves people. As a creative, like um I wouldn't say that I'm introverted, but I do need a lot of time in my own head. and sort of kind of alone to ruminate about whatever I'm thinking about or dreaming about or trying to solve. Um, and he ended up, I think, because of his grandfather, as just this people person. And so we're so thankful that we're not uncool yet. Like, and if you want to try and be uncool, like pick up their lingo, like try and throw like skibbity and riz and all that stuff out, and you will quickly you will lose cool points. But I heard this thing. Matthew McConaughey is doing a round on podcast right now, and he says like you go through these phases with your kids where you're dad, and like dad means a lot of things. It's like hero and protector and hard line and like all this stuff that we try and be. But there is this phase that you will go through with your kids where it's kind of better to be a big brother, uh, because eventually, like you were talking about, you kind of want to be their friend. You want to hang out with your parents as like friends. But in this interim time, we're trying to cultivate this thing with him. We can already see it where he's trying to like present a version of himself to us. He's got the school version and the football version but he's also like, he knows what our values and expectations are, and he's trying to live up to those. And we're trying to be really careful to make sure that like he can still come to us with the real talk and conversations that are happening at this age. And so time with him it's not as available as it was, of course, when he was a kid. But when we do have that time, my wife and I are really specific about trying not to make it superficial. And so like we want to cultivate this environment with him and this relationship with him that he can he can tell us a story that, we might have taught him at 4 or 5 or 6 that we might not have approved of, but like we want to be able to be that kind of big brother, according to McConaughey, that's like, hey man, I get it. I've been through, let me tell you a story about when I was a kid. Like, let me tell you back in my day, and sort of relate to him on a level that like, it's okay to go through this whole like teenage period. And like, by the grace of God, like my 6th through 8th grade experience was like most people's was the worst. I just hated middle school and it was the most awkward time of my life. But he's thriving. And so I think that, we always say with our kids that like they came pretty great. We're just not trying to mess them up. Like that's our big goal is like, don't mess up what we got. And so I think that like in this phase of life, yeah, we're going to miss them a little bit more, but like we want to make sure that the time that we do have with them is quality time. Like you said you've got your oldest is 11.
Mm-hmm.
Has it
Yeah.
hit you yet that like you're halfway through? Like you've got 7
Yeah.
Christmases left? Like do you ever think
Yeah.
about that? Like, yeah.
I quickly eject those thoughts from my brain. Like, oh no.
You can't dwell on it, but at the same time, it's like it goes back to being really like focused and present. Like you've got to figure out a way to capitalize on the time that you have. It's very fortunate that I get to work from home. But my dad was up at 7, he was back at 7. And so I saw him a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the evenings, and he was like this mythical figure to me. He was like my hero. But I only saw him like 3 hours a day. My kids see me all the time. I'm always here, and they see me at highs and lows. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they'll always know that like life is this full spectrum even when you're an adult. And I'm hoping that that's a good thing, like I'm hoping that works out as a net positive. And that there's still like a little mythical hero status that's attached to me and my wife as their parents, and not just the people that are always in their house.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Well, I want to ask you 2 more questions before we wrap. And those are, as a dad, what has been your greatest joy? And what has been your biggest learning?
Well, I really tried to think about these things. Like greatest joy for sure is what I said earlier about like we recognized really early that these were just like really special kids. And we've wanted to make sure that we we parented them the right way, but that we didn't really like mess up kind of the miracle that God created them to be. Like we really do think that like, I know every parent says that their kids are special, but like when we get feedback from other people or from teachers or from coaches, I think that that's a big joy. And I would say like overall, I've mentioned my wife, but like I think one of the greatest joys of being a parent is kind of the relationship that we have like built and maintained. Um, I think that like social media and everything in particular, like it puts this veneer on everybody's life. But like being married is tough, and having kids is even tougher, and being a good parent is super tough. And like to be able to have a relationship with somebody that you can really depend on and really keep coming back to, and um and just love and like express that love to your kids and like see that kind of reflected back to you, like that's sort of my deep answer on like what the joy is. Like like he hit a great golf shot when he was 2 years old. That was super joyful. Or like my daughter like decided she didn't want to do cheerleading and then she did it and she loved it. Like that's super joyful. There's always something that's very special happening. Um, but it's having this relationship with another person that we're sort of seeing like reflected back to us in the kids. That's really like as soon as you realize that, and I think for some people it's like day one, and some people it takes a little time. Me personally, it took a little time to kind of fully kind of wrap my head around the joy of having kids. But that's sort of the root of it, is that relationship. But learning, I mean, I'm constantly learning, but I think biggest learning is like it's something that is tough for me. Um, it is building a relationship with God into your relationship with your kids. I think ultimately, like, however you feel about your place in the world and the path that you're on, um, I would hope that you always look towards like an ideal and sort of a kind of be hopeful about what your potential is and what the future holds. And I think that's what God is to me. And I think like understanding that and try and express it to kids at the level that they're on, that they can be hopeful and that they can aspire, and that there's a meaning to their life. There's purpose that they're going to discover. Is It's one of those things that's like maybe it's because I'm getting older, or maybe it's because my kids are getting older. I don't know, but that is the learning that I wish somebody would have told me when I was 29 about to have a kid, rather than 42 now and I've got three. That I'm just now realizing that there's like uh, there are bigger lessons, other than like how to tie your shoe and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you so much for sharing. And thanks for, coming on and sharing all of this, especially the Skylight Calendar.
yeah, what a blast! And let's get that Skylight sponsorship. I swear, let's clip this and let's send them one and let's just see what happens.
Even if it just gets me a free one, hey, it's worth it.
That's right.
But yeah, if folks wanted to connect with you or find you online, where are the best places to do that?
I am actively trying not to be on social media as much as I was. But you can find me on Instagram or on X, at Brian Athey, on both of those platforms. And then my portfolio as it exists, and hopefully the future iterations of it, are at brianathey.com. So I've got a weird name, Athey, Brian Athey. If you can find that, you can find me.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank, thank you, Michael. Take care.